The time has come to create a Space National Guard as the primary combat reserve of the U.S. Space Force. Very good. Right? Very good. Thank you. Thank you. So as president, I will sign historic legislation creating a Space National Guard until I spoke to somebody that's a great guy, very much a fan of yours, Marco Rubio. I said, what do you think? He said, I love this. I love it. I love it. So we're going to do that. Space Force has been very important, very, very important. When I did that, the other people came in, they wanted to end it, and they were just hammered because people realized how important. We were getting just destroyed in space, and now we're leading. We are leading with all of the major metrics in space.
Well, there you have it. Trump out here promising the thing that exactly nobody asked for, a Space National Guard. No plan for jobs or lowering prices or reducing inflation or cutting healthcare costs, but a Space National Guard, you better believe it. It's like putting a 9-year-old into an adult's body and asking him what he thinks the most important priorities are for the presidency. Ah yes, well that would be the National Guard, but in space. No notes, Donald. No notes. Meanwhile, Trump's audience cheers for it because they'll cheer for anything, and yet these are the same people who turn around and rail against government waste and tax spending. Does anybody want to tell them who's going to pay for this apparently very important new cost? Here's a quick hint. It's them. I wonder if they'd be so quick to applaud beefing up Trump's vanity wing of the US military if they knew they would be the ones funding it. Although apparently it's very necessary because Trump notes that we were getting destroyed in space and now we're leading on all the major metrics in space. Can anybody tell me what that means? How are we getting hammered in space and how are we not getting hammered anymore? And what major metrics are we leading in now? Space GDP? Space unemployment? Space jobs? Space crime? Please, somebody, make it make sense. And let's be clear, this was actually the most riveting part of what was an overtly underwhelming speech. Take a listen to some of what Donald Trump said and how his energy level was so low, you'd think the guy was doing a Prozac campaign.
Kamala Harris is letting terrorists come into our country at record numbers and letting jihadists pour into our homeland by the thousands and thousands and thousands. We can't do that. My opponent, Kamala Harris, and Tim Walz are promising the exact opposite. They want endless war, open borders, voting rights, and free health care for illegal aliens, Soviet-style price controls, censorship, unlimited migration from terrorist hotspots, and unchecked power for the deep state. This fight is no longer between Democrats and Republicans. This is a fight between communism and freedom. But only we need strong leadership. We need a big victory. November 5th will be the most important day, in my opinion, in the history of our country.
I mean, my God, who needs melatonin when you can just listen to Donald Trump speak at his rally? If this guy was any more boring, there would have to be a warning for those listening to him talk at the same time that they're operating heavy machinery. And yet, this is the problem that Donald Trump has been contending with. His whole shtick is getting tired and old, which only highlights the energy and enthusiasm on the left, which further underscores how undynamic Donald Trump has been, and on the cycle goes. And let's be clear, while Trump enjoys his branding as some brilliant showman, the fact is that he's got only one note. He is incapable of innovating or changing his tune for more than 5 minutes. Eventually, it all reverts back to the usual Donald Trump. Fear porn, demagoguery, retaliation. But here's the thing. While whipping voters into an absolute frenzy to the point where they're too afraid to walk outside might have worked in 2016, it hasn't worked since. Not in 2020, 2022, or 2023. And in fact, the reason that Kamala's campaign has caught fire in the way that it has is a testament to the fact that there is a hunger expressly for the opposite of what Donald Trump is selling. There's a hunger for hope and joy and an actual vision for the future, other than just vague promises that fire and brimstone will consume us unless we vote for Donald Trump. The truth is, for example, Donald Trump spent all of the 2020 campaign promising that our 401ks would be destroyed and that the stock market would crash if Biden won the election. And of course, Biden won, and just today, the Dow hit a record high, while the NASDAQ and S&P 500 are hovering near record highs themselves. And yet still, Trump is back to making the same promises if Kamala wins.
We're going to have a crash, and we're going to have a crash like a 1929 crash if she gets in. You saw a gentleman yesterday who got up, one of the top analysts in the world, frankly, and said that if Trump isn't elected, he predicts, and he's predicting you have a stock market crash.
I mean, guys, the stock ticker is literally on the bottom of the screen. Fox is showing a record high stock market while Biden and Kamala are in office, as Trump warns about the supposed danger of Kamala being in office. This is how stupid he thinks his audience is. Trump may claim that the Democrats are the enemy as far as his voters are concerned, but no one shows more contempt for Republican voters than Republican politicians. And if you really want to see Donald Trump phoning it in, here's one of his greatest hits.
I'll take immediate action to restore our depleted military. You know, we don't have any ammunition again. Do you remember when I first came in? They said, sir. So I had, and you will say it, I had ammunition. We had so much it was coming out of our gills, right? I had ammunition. Oh, I said, what the hell do we do with all this ammunition? We had so much, and now we don't have ammunition again. We gave it all away to different groups, but mostly into Ukraine.
Sir, the general said, and they had tears in their eyes. Grown men with muscles bulging out of their sleeves. Sir, they said, sir, we need bullets. Biden is sending us into war, but there are no bullets in our guns. Sir, we need you back, sir. On the scale from 1 to literally never happened, where do you think that this story by Trump lands? And then, of course, what would be a Trump rally without a little hostility toward the U.S. Constitution?
I want to get a law passed. Everyone tells me, oh, sir, it's very hard. You burn an American flag, you go to jail for 1 year. Got to do it. We got to do it. They say it's not constitutional. They say, sir, that's unconstitutional. We'll make it constitutional. We're going to make it constitutional. But you burn an American flag, you go to jail for 1 year. That was terrible, what happened at the convention in Chicago. They're burning American flags all over the place, and the fake news doesn't want to show it.
These people will beat their chests all day about the Constitution and free speech, except when it's a part of the Constitution or free speech they don't like. Republicans have simply exposed themselves as being hostile to every part of democracy that doesn't directly comport with their own beliefs. These people don't want freedom, they want conformity. They claim to want to protect Americans against communist regimes like that in China, and yet they seek to exert the exact same amount of control over Americans as the CCP exerts over the Chinese. The GOP is out here throwing stones from the most fragile glass house you've ever seen. In the meantime, it would probably benefit Donald Trump to tamp down his already light campaign schedule, considering he clearly doesn't have the energy or the stamina to command the crowd's attention. And while that might have flown when he was running against Joe Biden, it's not going to fly when your opponent is Kamala Harris, and her crowds look like this.